Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a real conversation today. Let's talk about regret, the kind that hits you late at night, the kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it, the kind that makes you sit back and say, man, I messed up. Divorce is a painful thing. It rips families apart. It leaves scars that don't always heal. And let me tell you something. When a man looks back at his failed marriage with regret, he has nobody to blame but himself. 1.A. Real man owns his actions. Now, don't get me wrong. It takes two to make a marriage work, but it also takes two to break it. And if a man is truly honest with himself, he'll see where he went wrong. Maybe he stopped listening. Maybe he got too comfortable. Maybe he let his pride stand in the way of fixing what was broken. A man has to own that. A lot of men, they play the victim. She changed. She stopped loving me. No, brother, you stopped giving her a reason to love you the way she once did. True love is like a garden. You got to water it. You ever seen a garden left unattended? The flowers wither, the weeds take over, and what was once beautiful turns into a mess. Marriage is the same way. You stop putting in the effort, and love fades. Too many men think that just because they got the woman, they don't have to keep her. They stop saying, I love you. They stop paying attention. They stop making her feel special. And then one day she leaves, and now he regrets it. But guess what? It's too late. Preach yacht, ego is the enemy. A man's worst enemy isn't another man. It isn't money. It isn't even the woman he divorced. It's his own ego. How many marriages have ended because the man couldn't say I was wrong? How many families have broken apart because a man refused to sit down, talk, and fix what was broken? How many children have grown up in separate homes because their father chose pride over peace? Men, we have to do better. 4, fatherhood and the ripple effect. Divorce doesn't just hurt the man and the woman. It destroys families. It affects the children. It teaches them how to love, or worse, how not to love. A young boy watches how his father treats his mother. A young girl watches how her father values her mother. And if a man doesn't set the right example, that regret won't just be his own, it'll be passed down to the next generation. 5, learn, grow, be better. Look, nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. But what separates a man from a boy is the ability to learn from those mistakes. Divorce might be the end of a marriage, but it doesn't have to be the end of a man's growth. Divorce is rarely a sudden event. It's a slow unraveling of something that was once strong. And when a man looks back at his failed marriage, the first thing he must do is own his actions. The fight between him and his wife has always been, could I accept my life in his arms? Too often men play the blame game. She changed, they say. She stopped loving me, or she was the problem. But if a man is honest with himself, he will realize that he played a role in the downfall of his marriage. Taking accountability doesn't mean shouldering 100% of the blame, but it does mean recognizing where things went wrong and how his actions or lack of actions contributed to the failure. A man who refuses to acknowledge his own mistakes is a man who will repeat them. Why accountability is the first step. One of the most dangerous things a man can do after a divorce is refuse to reflect on his part in the breakup. Without self-reflection, there is no growth. And without growth, he will find himself making the same mistakes in future relationships. Think of it like this. If a man gets fired from 3 jobs in a row, at some point he has to ask himself, maybe it's not just the company or the boss. Maybe I need to improve. The same applies to relationships. If a marriage fails, a man has to take an honest look at what he could have done differently. Owning your actions means stepping outside of your own perspective and looking at the situation objectively. It's about understanding not just reacting. Common ways men fail to take accountability. Playing the victim. Many men tell themselves a story that makes them feel better. She just woke up one day and decided to leave. She didn't appreciate everything I did. But the truth is, people don't leave relationships that are fulfilling, loving, and secure. A wife doesn't just stop caring overnight. There were warning signs, moments of distance, emotional disconnection, but maybe he ignored them. Maybe he dismissed her concerns. Instead of seeing the problems, he brushed them aside until one day she had nothing left to give. Ego over reflection. A lot of men struggle with admitting their faults because of pride. It's easier to say, she was the problem, than to say, I didn't make her feel valued. But ego is a man's worst enemy in relationships. Pride keeps him from apologizing, from learning, and from growing. A strong man isn't the one who refuses to admit his mistakes. A strong man is the one who acknowledges them and fixes them. Avoiding the hard conversations. Many marriages fail because men avoid tough conversations. When problems arise, they shut down, get defensive, or escape into work, hobbies, or distractions. Communication is the foundation of any relationship, and when a man refuses to talk about the issues, he's essentially saying, I'd rather let this relationship fall apart than face uncomfortable truths. If he ignored her feelings, dismissed her concerns, or refused to open up emotionally, then the regret he feels after the divorce is on him. The power of owning your actions. When a man takes responsibility, something powerful happens. He gains control of his future. See, when you blame someone else for everything, you give away your power. If you believe your divorce happened solely because of your ex-wife, then you learn nothing. But when you admit your mistakes, you give yourself the opportunity to change and grow. Here's what real accountability looks like. Instead of saying, she left me out of nowhere, say, I didn't listen to her concerns when she expressed them. Instead of saying, she stopped loving me, say, I stopped putting in effort to make her feel loved. Instead of saying, she never supported me, say, did I create an environment where she felt supported too? And that shift in mindset is what separates men who continue to fail from men who become better. Lessons to take forward. For any man struggling with regret after divorce, here's the reality. The past cannot be changed, but the future is still in his hands. He can either sit in his regret and blame the world, or he can take accountability, learn, and grow. Self-reflection is essential. A man must look at his past relationship honestly and without ego. What did he do wrong? What could he have done better? Communication is key. If a man learns from his mistakes, he will understand that in any future relationship, he must communicate openly, listen actively, and express himself honestly. Love requires effort. Marriage isn't about winning or being right. It's about working together, making each other feel valued, and constantly choosing to show love. At the end of the day, real men don't run from responsibility. They take ownership, they grow, and they do better. Love is not something you win once and then put on a shelf. It's not a trophy. It's a living, breathing thing that requires care, attention, and effort. And just like a garden, if you don't water it, it withers and dies. Too many men believe that once they say, I do, the hard work is over. They think that because they've won a woman's heart, they don't have to keep earning her love, respect, and trust. But that's the mistake that leads to regret. Because love doesn't die overnight. It fades little by little from neglect. The biggest relationship killer, complacency. Men often don't realize that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. A lot of men start strong in a relationship. They're romantic, thoughtful, and present. They chase the woman, win her heart, and make her feel special. But over time, they get comfortable. They stop putting in effort. They stop paying attention. They assume their wife will always be there no matter what. But love doesn't work that way. Love needs to be nurtured. Imagine a man who used to bring flowers home just because. He used to compliment his wife, surprise her, and listen when she spoke. But then, after a few years, he stops. He takes her presence for granted. He assumes she knows he loves her, so he no longer says it. He assumes she understands he's busy, so he no longer makes time. Slowly but surely, that love starts to dry up. And one day, when she walks away, he looks back and wonders why. The answer? He stopped watering the garden. The silent warning signs men ignore. Most men don't realize their marriage is falling apart until it's too late. But the signs are always there. She stops arguing. When a woman still argues, she still cares. But when she stops, it means she's given up. She stops trying to connect. If she used to ask about your day, make plans, or want to talk, and now she doesn't, that's a sign of emotional detachment. She seems distant or uninterested. If she used to light up when you walked into the room, but now she barely notices, something has changed. She complains about the same things over and over. If a woman keeps telling you she feels unheard, unappreciated, or neglected, and you dismiss it, one day she'll stop telling you and start packing her bags. The problem is a lot of men only wake up when she's already gone. That's when regret sets in. That's when they wish they had paid attention. How to keep the garden of love alive. Never stop dating your wife. Yeah. Just because she married you doesn't mean she stopped wanting romance. Plan date nights. Surprise her. Keep the excitement alive. Small acts matter more than big gestures. A random I love you, a compliment, holding your hand. These little things matter more than grand one-time gestures. Listen, don't just hear. If she tells you she feels distant or unhappy, don't brush it off. Listen, engage. Fix it before it's too late. Be present. Put the phone down, step away from work, spend quality time together. Love is a choice every day. Marriage isn't about feeling in love all the time. It's about choosing to love, even on the hard days. At the end of the day, a man who truly values his relationship will never stop watering the garden, because when you take care of love, it flourishes. But if you neglect it, one day you'll be staring at an empty field, wondering where all the flowers went. A man's greatest battle is not against another man. It's not against his wife. It's not even against the struggles life throws his way. His greatest battle is against his own ego. Ego is the silent killer of relationships. It's the voice in a man's head that tells him I'm always right. It's the wall he builds when his wife says we need to talk, and instead of listening, he shuts down, dismisses her, or gets defensive. Ego makes a man believe that admitting fault is weakness, when in reality, true strength is found in humility, understanding, and growth. Divorce doesn't just happen because of big betrayals like cheating or abuse. More often, it happens because a man's pride won't let him see that he's pushing his wife away. How ego destroys marriages. Refusing to apologize. Some men would rather lose their marriage than say, I was wrong. Apologizing doesn't make you weak, it makes you self-aware. A woman doesn't expect perfection, but she does expect effort and accountability. Dismissing her feelings. When a woman says she feels unheard, unloved, or unappreciated, and a man responds with, you're overreacting, or you're being dramatic, he's letting his ego talk. Instead of listening, fixing the issue, he invalidates her emotions until one day she stops expressing them altogether. the need to win every. In marriage, it's not you versus her. It's both of you versus the problem. If a man turns every disagreement into a battle he has to win, his wife eventually stops fighting for the relationship. Emotional walls and stubbornness. Some men struggle with expressing vulnerability. Instead of saying, I feel hurt or I need help, they shut down. They act distant. They make their wives feel like outsiders in their own home. A man must understand that real strength is in communication and connection, not isolation. The moment when regret sets in. Men often don't see their own ego until they've already lost everything. When she's packing her bags, when she's filing for a divorce, when she's moving on, that's when the regret comes crashing in. That's when a man realizes all the times he could have listened, could have softened, could have chosen love over pride. By then, it's too late. That's why a man must ask himself, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Do I want to protect my ego or do I want to protect my marriage? How to kill the ego and save the relationship. Listen more than when she tells you something is wrong, don't argue, understand. Ask yourself, am I hearing her or just waiting for my turn to talk? Apologize without but. I'm sorry you feel that way is not an apology. I'm sorry for what I did is. Real apologies don't come with excuses, they come with changed behavior. Let go of the need to control. Marriage is a partnership, not a dictatorship. A man must learn to compromise, adjust, and grow. Express, don't suppress. Don't bottle up emotions until they explode. A real man knows how to communicate his feelings without anger or avoidance. Realize that love is bigger than pride. At the end of the day, ego is temporary, but love, if nurtured, can last a lifetime. Divorce doesn't just affect a man and his wife. It shapes the future of the children involved. Too often, men think that when a marriage ends, it's just between them and their ex-wife. But the truth is, divorce sends shockwaves through the entire family, especially when kids are in the picture. A father is the first man his children will ever learn from. His actions, his words, and his presence or absence teach them about love, respect, relationships, and responsibility. A divorced man may no longer be a husband, but he will always be a father. And how he handles himself after the divorce will either help his children grow or leave them carrying wounds for the rest of their lives. Divorce, how divorce affects children. For sons, learning how to be a man. A boy watches how his father treats his mother. If he sees neglect, anger, or irresponsibility, he grows up thinking that's how men are supposed to act. If his father abandons his role, he may struggle with self-worth, identity, and relationships in adulthood. But if a father shows up, loves, and leads by example, his son learns what true masculinity looks like. Strength, accountability, and respect. For daughters, learning how to be treated. A girl learns what to expect from men by watching how her father treats her mother and herself. If a father is absent, dismissive, or unkind, she may grow up believing that's normal. She may accept less than she deserves in her own relationships. But if her father is present, loving, and respectful, she grows up knowing her worth and expecting the same from others. The mistakes men make after divorce. Disappearing from their children's lives. Some men let the pain of divorce push them away. They assume that because the marriage ended, they have lost their place in the family. But a father's role does not stop after divorce. A child still needs him to be present, to guide, to love, and to support. Speaking negatively about the mother. When a man trashes his ex-wife in front of his children, he damages them, not her. A child should never feel like they have to choose sides. A mature father keeps his issues with his ex separate from his parenting, using money as a replacement for love. Some men think child support checks replace time, attention, and affection. But a child would rather have a father who shows up than a father who just sends money, letting guilt prevent them from parenting. Many divorced fathers feel guilty, so they stop disciplining their kids. They become weekend dads who only spoil their children instead of guiding them. A father must still be a leader and role model, not just a visitor. How to be a strong father after divorce. Show up, no excuses. Whether married or divorced, a father must always be consistent, present, and dependable. Be there for birthdays, school events, life moments. Small actions mean everything. Respect the mother, even if you don't love her anymore. Children absorb everything. If they see respect between their parents, they learn how to build healthy relationships. Even if the marriage is over, co-parenting with maturity is essential. Teach through actions, not just words. It's not enough to say, I love you. A father must show it through time, attention, and effort. Children won't remember the expensive gifts. They'll remember the moments when dad was there. Heal yourself to be a better parent. A father cannot pour into his children if he is empty. Seeking therapy, self-reflection, or spiritual guidance helps a man be stronger, wiser, and healthier for his kids. One of the biggest mistakes men make in marriage and regret after divorce is thinking that there's something better out there. They convince themselves that another woman, another life, or another situation will bring more happiness. They believe that the grass is greener on the other side. But let me tell you something, the grass ain't greener, it's just different. It is not about this other person. A man who doesn't water his own grass will always be chasing something new, thinking it will be better. But the truth is, every relationship takes work. If a man doesn't take care of the woman he has, he will eventually ruin the next relationship too. Because the problem isn't always the woman, it's the man's mindset. Why men think the grass is greener. They get bored with stability. Some men mistake peace for boredom. They forget that love isn't just about excitement. It's about commitment, respect, and trust. The thrill of a new relationship fades, but real love lasts when it's nurtured. They think a new woman will solve their problems. If a man isn't emotionally mature, he might believe that his unhappiness is caused by his wife. In reality, no woman can fill a void that comes from a man's own issues. If he doesn't fix himself first, he'll just carry the same problems into his next relationship. Social media and fantasy culture. In today's world, men are constantly fed illusions of better options. Scrolling through Instagram, watching movies, or listening to toxic advice can make a man believe he's missing out. But real life isn't a highlight reel. That perfect woman he thinks is out there, she has flaws too. They stop appreciating what they have. When a man takes his wife for granted, he starts seeing her flaws more than her value. He forgets why he fell in love in the first place. Then, when she's gone, he realizes too late how much she meant to him. The reality after divorce, the grass wasn't greener. Many men regret divorce when they realize that everything they were looking for was already at home. They missed the way she understood them. They missed the way she took care of things without being asked. They missed the trust, the history, the comfort, and they realized that the perfect woman they thought was out there doesn't exist. Some men spend years chasing something better, only to end up alone, looking back and saying, I should have worked harder on what I had. How to appreciate your own grass. Stop comparing, start investing. Instead of focusing on what's wrong with your wife, focus on how you can make the relationship better. A man who waters his own grass will find that it grows beautifully. Recognize the value of a loyal woman. A woman who stood by you, built with you, and loved you through struggles is worth more than any fantasy. If a man loses a good woman because of temporary temptation, he will regret it for life. Understand that all relationships require work. No matter who you're with, there will be disagreements, hard times, and struggles. Success in love isn't about finding someone new. It's about building with someone who's worth it. Fix yourself before blaming the relationship. If a man is unhappy, the answer isn't always to leave. It's to look in the mirror. Happiness comes from growth, maturity, and effort, not just a new situation. A lot of men choose divorce over fixing their marriage because they think leaving is easier than working through the issues. They believe that starting over will bring relief, that walking away will solve the problems. But here's the truth. The pain of regret lasts longer than the struggle of repair. A man might think divorce is the escape, but after the papers are signed, after the house is empty, after the kids start calling less, that's when the weight of regret hits. Because when the anger fades and the dust settles, he starts to see the truth. He starts to realize what he lost. He starts to wish he had fought harder, listened more, and put in the work before it was too late. Why regret hits harder after divorce. The finality of loss. When a man is in a marriage, he always thinks he has time. He assumes he can fix things later. But once the marriage is gone, there is no more later. He realizes he will never again wake up to the same woman who knew him inside and out, never again share inside jokes, traditions, or years of history. Seeing her move on, a man may think he's okay until he sees his ex-wife happy without him. Seeing her rebuild her life, smiling and moving forward while he's stuck in regret, that pain is unbearable. The kids see the change. If children are involved, a father realizes that his role has changed forever. No more coming home to them every night. No more being part of every moment. Instead, he's the weekend dad, watching from the sidelines, realizing that the problems were fixable. When emotions cool down, a man often realizes that the fights, the disagreements, and the struggles could have been worked through. What seemed like a mountain back then now looks like a small hill he should have climbed. Why fixing the marriage is worth the struggle. Many men don't want to do the work because they think it's too hard. They don't want to have uncomfortable conversations, go to counseling, or admit their faults. But here's the reality. Divorce is hard. So is fixing a marriage. Choose your heart. Loneliness is painful. So is growth. Choose your pain. Regret lasts forever. Effort lasts a lifetime. Choose wisely. A man must ask himself, am I willing to endure the discomfort of growth, or will I suffer the lifelong pain of regret? How to fight for your marriage before it's too late. Swallow your pride. Stop letting ego destroy something valuable. Apologize when you're wrong. Listen when she speaks. Act before she walks away. Prioritize your partner. Marriage isn't about coexisting. It's about continuously choosing each other. Make her feel seen, heard, and valued. Fix problems at the root. Don't wait until she's emotionally checked out. If something is broken, work together to fix it. Seek help if needed. Strong men don't avoid counseling. They use it to become better husbands and fathers. At the heart of every divorced man's regret is one simple truth. He didn't realize what he had until it was gone. Not every marriage can be saved, but too many end not because they had to, but because the man didn't fight hard enough. He let pride get in the way. He ignored the warning signs. He thought he had more time, and by the time he understood the weight of his choices, the door was already closed. Regret is a heavy burden. It follows a man in the quiet moments, when he's alone in a house that used to be a home, when he sees his children less and less, when he realizes that the love he once took for granted is now someone else's blessing. So the message is simple: wake up before it's too late. If you have a good woman, cherish her. If your marriage is struggling, fix it before it breaks. If your pride is keeping you from apologizing, let it go. If you think the grass is greener, water your own. If you believe starting over will solve everything, understand that no relationship is easy. A real man doesn't wait until regret sets in. A real man chooses love over pride while he still has the chance.